I couldn't afford a 23andMe, but I did a 22andU.
That explains everything. So
Yes. A implies B implies C. A lot of people like marry their like third best option. That's how I ended up in comedy. That's what you need to be great. You have to like start when you're fucking 4 years old. When you have to be clean and the people are dumb, those are my hardest challenges.
social media, folks.
Yeah, get on it if you haven't.
Yeah, if you don't.
It's the newest thing. America's Got Talent is a conspiracy
Okay.
run by the Russian government. I had a really rough 2020 and I ended up feeling paralyzed on the whole left side. And I didn't know what was going on. And then doctors found a lesion on my brain and they thought it was MS.
Neuroplasticity is one of the fundamental abilities of human brain. The neurochemistry of humans who win is drastically different from neurochemistry of people who keep losing.
With the whole like cancel cultures, do you feel like comedy is under attack? All right.
Amazing. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome episode of Sublime Studios podcast. And I have a person who I wanted to get on my podcast for a while now.
Oh.
2 weeks, maybe 2 years. I don't know.
I said no 2 years ago? I was ahead of my time.
we had that experience in Punchline, remember?
So more like 2 months.
2 weeks actually. Cool. Well, listen.
Yeah, we did it.
Sammy Obeid. Sammy Obeid is a comedian who will make you regret that you didn't take this math class in college, as well as he's on Netflix. Really interesting. Everyone should watch it. Show called 100 Humans, and we'll talk about this today as well. And he is just an up and coming business person with one more like KO comedy enterprise, and you will talk about this
Yeah, sure.
a bit more when we get to this. Sammy Obeid with us, and my beautiful and wonderful co-hosts today, Susan Chung and Janae. And I will ask you folks to talk about yourself. I think I introduced Sammy, so you can go now. Floor is yours.
Oh. Hi, I'm Susan. Where am I looking? Am I looking anywhere?
Look into any of the three cameras.
Oh, okay.
Whichever you like the most.
Yeah, my name is Susan Chung, and I am, I don't know, what do you want? Like just a little history or
Susan has
what?
been shy, but Susan is one of the modestly famous actresses in the area who knows everyone.
No,
She does. That's true.
Yes, he knows everyone. Like to give you an idea, I rented the studio like a couple days ago, and Susan told everything about the owner of the studio.
Oh yeah, I found out.
When she saw him.
I was like, you look so familiar, but I had met him
so
like
I think she works for FBI.
No, I'm an actor, also an acting teacher, and at First Take Acting Studio, and then I'm also a full-time volunteer pastor. So
That's how you meet everybody.
That is,
Acting
I
and
think-
That's how you know it.
Yes,
That's
it
why you
is.
know
covers
everyone, yes.
literally everybody.
yeah. I had Sammy on for a private show for our little church.
That's right. It was on Zoom.
Yes, it was
Yeah.
on Zoom. It was during the pandemic, and it was awesome. So, yeah, that's a little bit about my history.
Cool, Janae.
Okay.
Talk about yourself.
A little bit about myself. I'm currently a model, part-time. Should I talk about other things as well that I'm doing? Like, what do you want to know?
Free country, free speech.
Okay. So for my full-time job, I'm an executive assistant, and I do Airbnb as well. So
Wow.
yeah,
Very cool.
a little bit of everything.
All right. Sammy. Today it's about you. So we're going to ask you all kinds of questions, and I do have quite a bit of them.
Start from the reverse. Go in reverse order. Whatever you're going to do the opposite.
Okay. In this case, I'll just stand up and walk away. So yeah, let's start with the beginning. And the beginning would be you were born in a family which has a lot of Middle Eastern roots, right? So I guess it's Palestinian, it's Lebanese, and there is. You talk about yourself as being like 3/4 of.
Yeah, 3/4 because
Yes.
both my dad's parents were Lebanese and Palestinian, and my mom's dad is Lebanese, so 3/4.
Very cool. But
You don't have to take a math class to get that part.
yeah, you can add 2 plus 3, right? And you're going to get 5. Yeah. So I guess it helps you to kind of stand out and differentiate yourself from a lot of other comedians. And
Yeah, there's no other 3/4 Arab people in the world. Actually,
Exactly.
and the only time they made that combination.
maybe 74.5%, but not 75.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pure 75. Yeah.
Exactly. Have you taken like 23andMe? It's like any
I couldn't
other-
afford a 23andMe, but I did a 22andU.
I love it. Cool. So it clearly helps you differentiate yourself from all the other comedians. And honestly, a lot of my favorite comedians are coming from like international backgrounds. Like Russell Peters is one of them, right? So we know that even though he's Canadian, but he's talking about his like Indian heritage, right? Kabir Singh, who is also like Indian or maybe 100% Indian, maybe.
Yeah, Indian is the correct.
Like
Yeah. No, he's Punjabi.
That's
Punjabi, right? Sorry, yes. Apologize for that. And like Gabriel Iglesias as well is lots
Punjabi.
of like Punjabi. Gabriel Iglesias, Punjabi.
Yeah. Greatest Punjabi comedian.
Yeah, so it helps you to differentiate yourself, and a lot of people are using their origins and roots to make jokes based on that. And I think you are doing this as well, at least from a few performances of you that I've seen. So one question for you had is, do you have to adjust your jokes to the audience you are performing in
I
front
think
of?
everybody should do that a little bit. Well, we should do what you want. I don't care. But I think everybody does do that a little bit. Like, even if you are doing the same material and you're like, oh, I'm going to do these jokes, no matter who's in the crowd, you're going to say them differently based on the little nuances that the crowd gives you in how they take a joke. So for instance, if you normally tell a joke and it gets like a 30-second applause break and laugh and they only give you 10 seconds, you're not going to wait that full 30 seconds.
Yeah.
You're going to adjust for the crowd.
So you're going to move on to the next joke, I guess.
I would hope
switch
so.
topics.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see that where you wait the full, you pretend that like comedian tells a joke, nothing. You're just like, thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So you do have to adjust. Everybody adjusts. It's part of the thing. But if you're asking like, do I change my material based on who I'm
Yes.
performing for? Yeah,
Yes.
quite often. I just have a lot of material, so I like to rotate in what I think. I do a combination of what I think will work. If it's a show where they paid to come see me,
Yeah.
I want to do well. So I'll do things that I think that they would want, and I'll do some things that I'm working on or that I would like to do myself. And if it's a show that doesn't matter, if like I'm dropping in on a show, I'm going to do whatever I feel like doing at that time. Or sometimes I like to experiment and kind of like dig myself a hole and see if I can climb out of it.
I've been there before.
Yeah,
Yeah,
as
remember?
in acting or
No,
yeah.
with you. I've seen you.
Oh, dig a hole.
Well,
yeah, which
dig a-
show was that? Which
Remember at Rooster Teeth?
Yeah,
Am I
yeah.
allowed to talk about this?
Oh, yeah.
Remember? And
Yeah.
then the crowd was just like not.
They were not in it.
responding
Yeah.
or anything, and
Yeah.
I was like, "What?" And I was trying, and I don't know. I have a loud
Sold
laugh.
out show, by the
Yeah.
way. Sold out show at my home turf. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, and I remember after seeing you, and I was like, "Whoa!" You're like, "Oh, that crowd was just not feeling stuff," and he was like, "I was just experimenting," and I was like, "Oh, that's a great time to experiment, I guess." When you're,
Susan was laughing though.
I was,
Yeah.
because I
I
think
think
you're funny.
Susan is always laughing. Yeah.
No, I'm not. I'm very particular about what I laugh about.
So we all know about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, right? So how often do you have to explain what it is to people who usually don't know it, especially like in America, where education is more of a product you need to buy than that's something that everyone entitled to. So if you go to states where education is not as prevalent as in Bay Area, you
I
get
don't do
asked-
much explaining on stage. I kind of do the jokes, and if there's a little bit of explanation in the jokes, then I'll do those. If it's somebody I know well and I like care about, I'll tell them everything I know. But it's a long story. You have to have hours and hours if you really want to quote unquote explain
Yes.
Israel-Palestine, and you're still not even getting close to the whole picture. But on stage, I do whatever the minimal setup I can to get to the jokes. But obviously, if people seem to know more about it, then I can talk about more things in that space. But if they don't, I kind of do like the bare bones stuff, because mostly everybody's heard of it. They
Yes.
kind of know a little bit about what's going on, but not very well. So I do like to do a little bit of education, but like it is a comedy show. You don't want to lose people's interest.
Yes, it's not a history class, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And it's past 2,000-3,000 years of history,
Right. Yeah.
to explain, and that's like a few hours of talking, I guess, right?
Yeah.
So-
A few minutes in a set, in a 5
Yeah,
minute
yeah.
set.
Only have a few minutes to explain
Yeah.
3,000 years.
But
of,
I get a lot of criticism for those jokes. But
Oh,
like end of the day, I get
exactly,
a lot of people will say like I knew nothing about the situation, and then I heard a few of your jokes, and it made me like want to look it up. So I watched a bunch of YouTube videos, and now I'm like more aware of it and what's going on. So thank you. I get like at least maybe 100 of those messages a year. So that is like enough to like want to keep doing them.
I
Yeah,
think.
it's an opinion. Like a lot of people wouldn't agree with the way I
Exactly.
explain things,
Yeah.
you know. But I know a lot more than I say on stage because I don't have time to say everything on stage. So I often get criticized for like using a certain word in a certain way or explaining something in a certain way. And like it's not like that. I'm like I actually am aware of that. But to have a joke, you need to get to the point faster, and I have to choose the best words I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also I guess depends on where you are performing,
Yeah.
right? So like as I mentioned, like Bay Area has maybe the highest prevalence of educated people.
Yeah.
Like if you look at census, then we have something like, again, just from top of my head, like 66% of folks here have masters.
Interesting.
Like
I didn't know that
close
either.
to 40% have PhDs.
Wow.
Yes.
And only 10% are using them.
If you try to understand why it's so, all the businesses in Silicon Valley are bringing this foreign talent with PhDs to drive technology forward. This is where it's coming from.
Yeah.
But also because of that, we have 10% more dudes than girls. You see, so that's another specific.
It's great for dating.
Great for one camp, but not for the other one.
Smashing with dudes left and right. What's up, dude?
Yeah, what's up, dude?
Show me your PhD.
My husband has a PhD.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's
Yeah, you see, so at least 50%.
very white. So that doesn't count in your statistics.
Amazing. Okay, you went to Berkeley.
I went, yes.
Yes, you went to Berkeley,
Yes.
and you got a double degree
major,
major.
yeah.
in
2
business,
undergrad degrees.
business and applied math.
Yes.
So those are kind of like not very relevant. And
Thank you.
To me, like to me, like applied math requires more focus and more
Yes,
mental
yeah.
capacity than doing business.
Business,
Would you
I
agree?
hardly showed up to any of those classes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Business took about 10% of the work. 90% was in applied math.
Yeah. And why did you choose both? And how come that you?
I chose business first because I went undeclared. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And then my best friend from high school, who also went to Berkeley, was like, I'm going to do business. You want to just do it with me? And I was like, yeah, let's just do it. Because it's like, if you could do business, you can do anything. I just wanted to defer and decide later. I was in a very like, let's decide later what I want to do with life.
Yeah.
And I'm glad I did that because I had no idea what I wanted. And then along the way, I was always very good at math in like elementary and high school and stuff, and I passed like the AP or the AP BC calculus test. I got a 5, which means you don't need to take any math in college if you don't need it for your degree. So I was done with math forever. Yeah. And then so I got to freshman year of college and I was like, man, I just miss how easy math classes were for me. And now I'm doing all this like language, I'm writing essays. I hate it. I wish I could just take a math class. So I just signed up for a math class to see what like college math was like. And after 2 of those, I was like, I'm just going to go ahead and major in it.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So it's master's or bachelor's? What?
Bachelor's.
Got it.
Yeah. Which is like in your country, it's like a junior high education.
Oh, thank you for knowing something about my country. Okay, and of course, logically, having those 2 degrees, you are becoming a comedian.
Yes.
Yeah, that explains everything. So
Yes. A implies B implies C, which is for comedy. Yes.
A is applied math. B
Yes.
is business. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Now we do it. Cool. How did your parents like understand this kind of decision? Did you have to do like some explanation?
They did. My parents were always very trusting of whatever I did. It was, I think by like age 10, 11, 12, it was clear that I was smarter than them. And so they kind of passed the reins on to me.
And they didn't have like any expectations of you of becoming specific.
No, they just wanted me to go to college.
Right.
And as soon as I did that and graduated, they're like, all right, you can just do whatever you want. And I like my report card spoke for itself. Like they knew that whatever I wanted to do that I would do fine in. Yeah. So they never questioned comedy. In fact, my parents are like very like into the arts and stuff like that. So they supported it. They were like, that's great that you're doing something that you enjoy.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And you chose comedy because you always wanted to be someone, or there was like one specific experience where you like, well, oh my God, this is so amazing. I want to do it for the rest of my life.
Yeah, no, comedy was like my third choice.
After applied math and
Yeah,
business.
it's kind of like how a lot of people like marry their like third best option. That's how I ended up in comedy. I wanted to be a musician. My music was my number one, and then actor was my number two.
Which instrument do you play?
Guitar.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was in a band. I was in a band when I was 12 and 13. And so I was really into music, and then the dream kind of fizzled out. It just seemed like so impossible to like make a living.
Off of that, yes, for sure.
Yeah. In retrospect, like seeing how hard comedy was and how long it took me just to get here, I'm like, dude, I could have just stuck with music. Because I started picking up guitar when I was 11. It's like I could have just, the story I tell, you know, I've said this many times, but basically Jimi Hendrix was my idol.
Yep.
And when I started playing guitar at 11, I idolized Hendrix, and like by like 13, I was like learning all of his songs. And then somebody told me that Jimi Hendrix started playing guitar when he was 4, and I was like, well, like that's what you need to be great. You have to like start when you're fucking 4 years old.
Yeah.
And so like at some point, I was like, I did the math. I was like, it's just not. I'm at 11. It's not going to happen that way.
Can you do math at 4?
Yeah, I wasn't 4 years old when I did that.
Yes.
He was 11.
I was in I was an early adolescent.
Too late.
Yeah, and so I was just like, he was way ahead of me, and you know, so I was just like, there's no way I could ever be as good as Hendrix, and so that kind of factored into me like laying off music. And then years later, I went on Wikipedia and I learned he actually started playing guitar when he was 15. So I don't know whoever told me that it was at 4 was like totally wrong. So in retrospect, yeah, I could have kept doing music, but
that false knowledge derailed your career.
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrible.
It's horrible. Yeah.
That's horrible.
I'm sorry. I would, you know.
Actually, very sad for you right now.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't be doing this podcast right now. No offense. No offense. Maybe if we did different paths, we all took different paths, we'd be on this podcast in a different city.
You don't have to be specific career or specific anybody to
be on a podcast.
You just need to be an interesting person. And you see,
Thank you.
That's my criteria. I think you are one of them, but I'm still kind of like debating.
Sure. We'll take your time.
Thank you. I love it. You have a very interesting style of humor. And the way I see it is because you are so educated, you are also like quick wit, and you know, like you're really good with finding those tiny like intricacies of language. Putting this together with your knowledge of science allows you to make jokes which require at least some exposure to like basic math, basic physics, history, geography, and so on. So when you go to areas where you cannot expect people to be so knowledgeable, you probably have to adjust your jokes. Because
absolutely, yeah.
You've been probably through so many situations where you're throwing a joke which would be funny somewhere, and then you go to a new location and it just bombs, right?
Yeah.
So how do you adjust? What do you do when you feel like the audience just doesn't get it?
Well, you got to have material for everybody. You know, people always paint me as a smart comedian, but I have a lot of really dumb jokes, and I like telling them. I have jokes that I get happy that I can tell in certain places outside of like San Francisco and stuff. Yeah, it's like I like doing it all, and you know, wherever you go, if you can just relate to like basic human life, like food, going to the store, you know, the internet, and sex. I mean, sex is universal. The hardest gigs are when you have a lot of constraints. When you have to be clean. When you have to be clean and the people are dumb, those are my hardest challenges. Like if it's a
the most difficult.
Like if it's a church gig where everybody's really smart, I'm killing it. You know what I mean?
Killed it.
Which state would be this one, the cleanest?
The clean and dumb state? Well, you can imagine. You can imagine. Let's just say I've never been booked in Mississippi, but But yeah, I mean, every state, every city has a culture, and you just have to kind of get to know it. And after you tour enough, you kind of get to know a city's vibe. So also now that I have fans, they come out to see me. So like most people come out to see me, and people come out to see me for different reasons. So some people come out for the math humor. Some people come out for like the Palestine stuff. Some come out because they like puns, and I make a lot of puns. And some come out because they just saw like a bit that I did, and then they're like, "Oh, that bit's great," you know. So it's like it's a mix of people.
How do usually people discover you? So do they go to your show randomly and then they become your fans?
A few people, like at this point now with the internet, I would say maybe like 1% of my fan base is people who saw me live, and then
in live, yes,
yeah. The rest is people who
social media,
yeah.
Social media, folks.
Yeah, get on it if you haven't.
Yeah, if you don't have
it's the newest thing.
You are just
Old.
no,
Sorry.
you're never too old. Come on. There is social media for boomers as well. Like Facebook.
You're a boomer.
I'm that old.
You've been around for a very long time, Susan. That's how you know so many people.
Right. I was born in the, when were the boomers born? In the 20s, 50s?
40s, 50s.
40s,
The children of war.
Yeah,
World War II.
yeah. Yeah. My parents are boomers.
Yeah, mine too.
Amazing. You were on America Got Talent.
Yes.
But for some reason, I wasn't able to find your audition.
Well, there's a reason for that. America's Got Talent is a conspiracy run by the Russian government.
Okay, you're not being serious now.
Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I was like,
I'm just kidding. Come after me for that. It was a joke. They would too. They're like spreading lies about America's Got Talent. Who knows? I could be right. The only reason they'd come after me for that is because it's right. Turns out it is a Russian run. I will say the America's Got Talent, all the producers, when I did it at least, this was 2012, were from the UK. It was a British production team.
All right.
So everybody with the cameras and our faces and microphones to our mouths were speaking with a British accent on America's Got Talent. Yeah.
And you were not, you were refusing to pick up British accent, and that's why they didn't let you.
Yeah, I refused to speak British in my own country. This was 2012.
Yes.
The judges were Howard Stern, Howie Mandel, and Sharon Osbourne. They're American. Yeah. I performed for them twice. Yeah. So the reason you didn't see a clip is because they didn't air my audition.
Yeah.
They aired 10 seconds from the semifinals.
Yes. I saw that those 10 seconds, but that's
8 seconds actually. Sorry, I totally
I was able to
exaggerated.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Like, how do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like it kind of gave you like this wake up call that you need to work harder with your material?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't work harder because at the time I was doing comedy 1,000 nights in a row, and I was around 500 days in.
Yes.
So there was no way I could be physically working hard at that point. In fact, that was the frustrating part, was that I was like, how much harder can I work? And it wasn't that I need to work harder, it was that I need to work smarter. And so what I did after that is I leaned out all my jokes. I cut out all the fat from my jokes, and I made them quicker because the comedians who moved on were comedians who packed a lot of punchlines into those 90 seconds. Whereas I only told like 3 or 4 jokes. So that made me realize like you don't need a lot of those words that you have in jokes.
Yeah.
So I just trimmed them out, and suddenly my set became a lot more like rapid fire.
Faster, and I would say feistier, right? So this is
Faster and feistier. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was just faster. I don't think I didn't have like a chip on my shoulder or nothing like that. No.
Comedy is a lot about delivery. So if you deliver the very same joke just slower, it's not going to be as funny.
Sometimes it really depends. Sometimes a low key, slower, less committed delivery actually works better than doing too much.
You are known for having this informal, and we also can talk about why it's informal, because Guinness Book of Records didn't acknowledge and didn't accept this record.
Well, they didn't. It's not that they didn't acknowledge or accept. It's they said that if I wanted to have it as a record, that I would have had to pay 200,000 pounds.
What?
Pounds? And say, no, I don't pay any pounds.
To be in the Guinness World.
It's the British again. My whole
gosh.
my whole struggle is about the British. It all goes back to Palestine. The British.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, but anyway, so you've been performing for 101 night nonstop every day, which took you
almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years to do, right?
Yeah.
Why were you doing that? I would ask.
Well, it gradually became a thing. I didn't set out with that
Yeah.
goal in the beginning. I just wanted to get good fast.
Uh-huh.
And Kabir had a lot to do with that, actually. Kabir was somebody who was present in my life and was like a motivating force to get better. Not like he didn't tell me I needed to get better. It's just that Kabir started like 8 months after me. And about 2 or 3 years in, he started getting a lot of like success and started doing really well. And I was kind of trailing behind. And so there was like a point where I was like opening for Kabir like on a regular basis. And I think there was a night where I did a show. I hosted the show and Kabir headlined. And there was like this guy who went to our high school, because we went to high school together, me and Kabir. And you remember back like when like Facebook wall posts were like a thing? You could like post on people's
walls, yes.
Yeah.
I can
You can still do that.
put
So
some
like back in the
ridiculous
day,
stuff on
like that's how
somebody
you
else's wall,
communicated.
yeah.
You'd post on somebody's wall and everybody would read it. It was in like the feed. And this guy posted on Kabir's wall. He's like, man, saw the show last night. You were by far the best.
Yeah.
It was like by far. And I was like,
Everything I've seen today.
Yeah,
Your
yeah.
joke was the best.
yeah, and it hurt. It was like, this is a guy that I know from high school.
Have
He
joke.
put by far in caps.
Oh.
This is like a public wall. And I remember reading that and being like, damn, I have some work cut out for me. So at that time, it was like little things like that were telling me like, oh man, I need to like start like really working hard. And I knew that one thing that definitively made me better was getting up regularly. Like everybody has a different style. Like for instance, like Kabir, he would take nights off and he would be fine. For me, I like needed the continuous
Yeah.
go get 'em and writing. I needed to be constantly in it. So I just decided I was going to do that for a while. And then, so I decided to perform like every night for a month, and then it became 2 months, and then it became 100 days. And then I told some people about it. They're like, you should do a full year, 365 days. I did 365 days. I got to a year, and then I thought that was going to be like the record. And then somebody told me that there was a comedian who once did 2 years. And so I was like, oh, I got to beat that now. And so then I decided to do 1,000 days.
I think the record back in the day was something like 700 nights, 750 nights in a row.
At the time, it was 2 years. So
Yeah.
I mean, 365 times 2.
But you were not competing for specific records, because otherwise you would have set up, the Guinness Book of Records.
It's all informal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody has a formal Guinness record in this.
In your
department.
knowledge, did anybody rival you since then?
There was a comedian who told me, I think it was either at the end of my stint or like shortly after, that he was going to do what I did. And I was like, you're crazy, dude. I was like, my advice is don't.
Don't. Yeah.
And he's like, I'm going to do it. And then I saw him like a year later. I was like, how did that go? He's like, oh, I broke my arm on like day 30 and I had to stop, or something like really early in.
He was joking so hard that he broke his arm.
Yeah. Yeah. So as far as I know, no.
Wow. I did not know that.
And I'm sure the thing is New York comedy culture, like you get up every night. Like Richard, there's a lot of comedians who don't take nights off in New York, but like to rarely take a night off is something extremely different than to make sure you performed exactly 1,000 days in a row. So like, there was a handful of New York comedians like, yeah, who doesn't do that out here? But it's like, yeah, but did you do it exactly 1,001 nights? And I'm like, not saying I'm better than you. I'm just saying like I did that thing specifically. So, and as far as I know, nobody else did it.
This was all like in New York State? You didn't leave the state?
No, I lived here.
Okay, you've done 1,001 performances in one location?
No, I did 1,001 nights.
Nights, yes.
I averaged
was a tour.
2.5 shows a night. Some nights I was doing 5 to 7 shows. Some nights I was doing 1. So I think that the final count was like 2,500 something sets in that 1,001 days. Yeah.
Were you the headliner for all of those nights?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I was doing anything I could
Right.
get. Like I made some basic rules. The basic rules were that the set needed to be at least 3 minutes, and 3. It was 3 because I was in LA for a lot of the time. Sometimes you could only get a 3-minute spot places. I was nobody back then. I couldn't just get on anywhere. There had to be an audience of at least 3 people. And they had to be there attending to knowing that it was a stand-up comedy show. Like I couldn't just bum rush people on the street. And I didn't make a rule like you need a microphone, because some shows didn't have microphones. So those were the 3 rules.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But it was like all
The set also had to be before, it had to happen, between midnight and midnight of that day.
Right.
Yeah.
It was all different venues basically in different cities.
Yes.
Right.
Sorry, not midnight and midnight. I just realized not midnight. It had to be like between like, regular waking hours and midnight. Like, because if you could do a show at 1 a.m. and be like, oh, I did my show for the day, but that's not how it works.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Interesting. You don't plan on, maybe trying it again and
No, hell no.
get.
No.
Too big for that.
No, my God. No, it's not just, I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
I think there is a better use of
horrible
anybody's
experience,
time now than doing this. People who are used to be on the stage, they are also very good, eloquent, and they are also very good in delivering their point really in a really short amount of time.
I like to get to the point. Yeah.
Yes.
To do things
And
efficiently.
I think you are a good example of that. So you've been on a Netflix's show called 100 Humans.
Yes.
And this reminded me of another show which I think YouTube did with a guy called Vsauce, Michael Vsauce. So it was a show, maybe 4 seasons, and it was a show where he was doing all kind of like experiments on himself and also on a groups of people. So one of the things that he has done is he had a group of scientists put him in a room with like no windows, no clock, no idea of what time of the day it is, no external signal. So the walls were soft, and it was having like bright light like that one, like nonstop. It's not healthy for you to be in this environment. So he lasted for 36 hours only, until he got to the point where he started to see things that are not there, and they took him out. Yeah. So your show also does.
Yeah, my show's better.
Okay, of course. Your show also does experiments on a group of people, and it's 100 people. That's why it's called 100 Humans.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen first 3 or 4, I think, episodes of it, till it got to the point where they started to do things like who is better at multitasking and so on. It kind of became more of a more political, more of a agenda driven and so on. So there's a lot of
once it got political, you checked out?
I think we need more opinions which show things from different angles, not just this, a mainline, like mass media point of view.
So you brought me here to talk shit about the Netflix show I did.
No. I don't want you to talk shit. What I wanted
You don't want me to talk shit. No, you're talking shit. I'm not.
Well, I'm voicing my opinion, right? So I'm also.
Well, we need some more opinions.
Yes. There you are a host. So you are one of those 3 kind of like researchers who is you are delivering the tasks, and you are doing the summary, and you're talking to whoever comes with any kind of explanation for what happened and so on. What else have you done besides being a host there? Did you write any of those like scenarios there?
I contributed one of the experiments.
Okay.
Show's over. It's done. It's canceled.
Wasn't canceled. It's still on Netflix.
Yeah, but it's canceled as in it's not. There's not going to be another season. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Was it because it didn't take off?
No, I think it was just timing. It came out at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So there was no ability to greenlight a second season in March of 2020.
Right.
That's when it came out.
Yeah.
Because you need 100 people all next to each other.
Would you do similar show on yourself without?
Yeah, of course.
Very cool.
That's been my plan all along. To be honest.
We can talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I love doing experiments. It's just they're very hard to coordinate, and you need a lot of capital.
You need to pay all those people because otherwise it will not be just.
You need to pay your participants.
Yeah, they will not comply with the protocols.
And you need, for good science, you need a good sample size.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that's the big hold up. And I want to do real experiments. I don't want to just do like random street experiments. Mm-hmm. Do you have money?
Why do you ask? I might.
He needs capital.
Yeah, I'll take ideas and money simultaneously.
I think you are more after money than ideas. I think you have your own ideas.
I have some ideas, but no, I'm always down for collaboration. I don't want to do it all myself. No, that's the thing. I don't like doing most things all by myself except stand up. Stand up is the one thing I like doing by myself.
I'll take the producer title, and you can take the host title.
Sure. Yeah, I want to be producer.
Cool. Cool. Anyway, so how was your experience working with Netflix? They have their own like production facility and department within the company, which is separate and independent from the technology side, the content distribution. And I think between you and me, we've been on maybe like a few hundred sets, right, all together. So depending on which set you are and who the producer is and who the director is and so on, there's different kind of vibe going on. Very often it's just like, we're here to do the business, and I don't want to deal with you after this and so on. Like you have to be more professional. So how was your experience working with Netflix production?
Well, the production company was not Netflix. It was a outside production company. I mean, that's how a lot of Netflix shows are shot. I don't even know if they have in-house. I mean, I'm sure they have in-house production teams, but I would imagine most of their shows you contract a production company.
Yeah.
So I only saw 2 people who were actually from Netflix who just came on the set and occasionally supervised and gave notes. They were looking for a host. Yeah.
So you went for auditions and you landed it.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, I had been wanting to do a show like that, but they didn't know that. They just were looking for hosts.
You're on a company called KO Comedy. What is that? What does the company do?
KO Comedy is a company that I've had for quite some time. It's basically my loan out company, my doing business as company. It's my comedy company. But during the pandemic, we opened a virtual comedy club under the name KO Comedy. Virtual as in we did it over Zoom.
Zoom, yes.
Yeah. There were, during the pandemic, we needed a solution to do shows and to provide shows for people who wanted them. So we set up this virtual platform, did shows over Zoom, and we still have it. It's still running. Still does shows most nights of the week.
Still on Zoom.
And we have like a cult following, and then we get new people through the doors every now and then.
Pandemic allowed a lot of businesses to pick up or spawn new ideas, and even Zoom itself became this ubiquitous thing during the pandemic. But also, like now, when things are kind of normal, well, maybe now it's getting back to the point where they're talking about introducing masks. So, folks, be ready. Yeah, it's coming. Vaccines is a thing which is again very sensitive. So I'm not saying that my position is the only position. Maybe some of you have different positions. So come at me.
Your position is get three shots?
No. My position is that it's like with flu, COVID will never go away. This is my position. So if you want to keep the prevalence of COVID numbers somewhat low, like flu, you kind of have to maybe get a booster every year. But that wasn't happening.
I don't know if there's any empirical research that suggests that. Yeah, I mean, my opinions on this have evolved a bit over time as I have researched more. But I mean, I think we're in a place where, I mean, you remember what was it even? So it's 2023 now. I mean, remember at the beginning of 2022, it was there was this big debate of if you're not vaccinated, you should not even do anything in society. And now the opinion on that has totally changed. Now it's it doesn't even matter. A lot of people, it's kind of diverged. You have some people who are got to get the booster shot, going to get 3 a year, 4 a year, or 1 every season. And then you have people who are I'm not touching that shit. And then you have people most people are just kind of in the middle. I got a booster shot, didn't feel like it did anything. Yeah. I think that's where most people are. And that's,
I mean,
the flu is kind of like that. I mean, I remember before this whole pandemic happened, I was doing a personal experiment myself to see when I got the flu shot, did I get more flus or less flus? Coincidentally, I got more flu infections when I had the flu shot. I'm not saying that the flu shot caused it, but I observed that, 3 out of 5 years. And that was enough for me to be well, then what's the point of getting the flu shot? So I just stopped getting the flu shot. But I'm not, people always say when they say medical stuff, they say, I'm not a doctor, but most doctors aren't doctors either. Nobody really knows what's best for everybody's health. You kind of have to figure it out on your own sometimes. And I think that's probably the biggest problem with everything that happened. I think that we were always doing this one size fits all approach. And that's kind of the nature of a vaccine. It's how a vaccine works. But, the vaccine might be a good idea for some people, might not be a good idea for some.
Yeah, I love this opinion.
Yeah.
It goes maybe against the mainstream.
You're cool with getting demonetized on YouTube, right?
The truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Right.
Always.
Extremes are not good
Right.
on each side.
Right.
And yeah, it's interesting data point where you're saying that you got a flu vaccine, but you measured your like frequency of getting flus.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'm not claiming causation. It just that's happened to me. But if you observe that enough times, you might just be like, what am I doing?
It might be correlation or not, right? But also, are you sure that your numbers for previous years before the vaccine are accurate as well, or were you just?
I have a very good memory. I have a very good memory.
Memory, well.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You're asking like if I comparatively look at years I took the flu shot and years I didn't take the flu shot and compared how many times I got flu. I mean, I could go back in time and like map it all out exactly, but it was enough times that I got the flu shot and still got the flu like 4 or 5 times to realize that like, okay, maybe it's just about taking better care of myself seems to be more important than getting the flu shot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Like taking care of yourself would give you much higher return.
It will always.
On the effort span.
And that's what is not going to be profitable for anybody ever.
No, nobody wants you to be healthy, right? Because
except
you would not be paying doctors.
Aside from like the budding health, actual health conscious industry, which actually can be very profitable, but like that doesn't align with, for lack of a better term, big pharma. Big pharma is more of a state of mind. It's not like because there are a bunch of companies, but like it's more of a state of mind.
There is a book on conspiracies, and it basically talks about general patterns on all those like mindsets and thoughts which seem to be very believable but go against common sense. And one of those conspiracies is that big pharma is conspiring within itself to purposefully make society sick and to purposefully drive the costs for the pharmaceuticals up because of that.
Yeah.
So it's a conspiracy. There is no like, actual.
And even that viewpoint, I think, is extreme. I don't think there is malicious people out there planning to get people sick. I mean, some people would say there are. Maybe there's been one person in history who's done that, or maybe more. But I don't think it's as malicious as the conspiracy theorists like that make it. I just think it's somewhere in between. It's like big pharma is an industry that relies on people being sick. And so they're going to want to continue believing that people will get sick. Maybe not as much like making people sick or trying to get them sick, but believing and kind of just wanting that to be the case enough so that it just creates that perpetual problem. Mm-hmm. But I like you said, I think the truth is always somewhere in the middle. I don't think people are that malicious, but I also think that we over rely on medicine. Most people would agree we over rely on medicine, and sadly, vaccines just became another part of that.
When times get tough, instead of just working your way out of the tough situation, you go to a psychotherapist and they prescribe you like Zoloft or Xanax or whatever. And this is the pandemic of modern days, where I don't know, maybe like 1/3 of population are on some kind of antidepressants.
Yeah,
you see, like I can relate to that with my personal experience. Back in the day, I went to a doctor and the doctor asked me something like, "Does your like pain give you anxiety?" And I'm like, well, I don't like to be in pain. I mean, what exactly are you expecting me to answer? Yeah. Well, okay, we're going to prescribe you antidepressant. And they put me on antidepressant. And I was taking an antidepressant for 2 months. And with all the protocols, like, they like, we'll start with this dose and then in 2 weeks double the dose and then double it again and so on. And at one point, I remember myself sitting in my car and touching the steering wheel because I was enjoying the sensation of the leather wrapping the steering wheel. And I felt like this is so unnatural. I shouldn't be doing that. I should go out and, just enjoy life. But instead, I just want to sit here and enjoy the feeling. And I go, okay, I'm done. And I stopped taking antidepressants. And you shouldn't be stopping taking those things abruptly because there are side effects. They're called like zips.
Zip is a side effect that you get from abruptly stopping.
Yes. So what happens is the antidepressants are working on upregulating and downregulating the transmission of signals.
Yeah.
So when you stop taking them, then all those signals they will need a way to get back to the normal state of transmission, right? So when you're unblocking some receptor for the signal, then the signals are starting to fire up more strongly. And you feel it like, there are like electric shocks happening in your brain, which might be scary. Like, am I going to go like into a seizure?
Yeah.
It goes away after a few days, but a few days are just not comfortable.
Did you feel like that? Did you feel like you were?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyways, antidepressants are not the way out.
Like, life should be fun, but like the moment you're doing that every day because a doctor told you that you're only going to be good because you did that, it's like you need to you should change something. But again, everybody always says, I'm not a doctor. This is my disclaimer, but it's like, I think be your own doctor. I'm my doctor. And I think people should be their own doctor. And you should have a doctor you consult with too, but you should also be your own doctor, But like, it's good that you were aware to feel that didn't feel right to you and something clicked. But a lot of people don't think that, because we live in a society that embraces like, no, you should be doing this. If something is wrong, if we decided something is wrong with you, you should be on this medication. And that's, it's a very problematic thing.
What's your opinion about like all the rave culture kind of folks? And
I grew up in the raves. I was a raver.
Yeah. Bay Area is where you can do very unorthodox things for sure.
Yeah.
Do you go to Burning Man?
No, never done Burning Man. No.
In the following section, we discuss the neurotropic properties of fungi when used for medical purposes. It is essential to clarify that Sublime Studios and its affiliates do not endorse, promote, or encourage the use of controlled substances without a valid prescription from a healthcare professional. The misuse of such substances is illegal and may result in severe legal and health consequences. We strongly advise all individuals to comply with the laws and regulations of their jurisdiction and seek guidance from a qualified healthcare professional or legal expert. There's plenty of research on like mushrooms and psychedelics overall, and their ability to kind of rewire your brain.
Yes.
Have you
so I have this whole 2020 story. I had a really rough 2020, and I ended up feeling paralyzed on my whole left side, and I didn't know what was going on. And then the doctors found a lesion on my brain, and they thought it was MS, multiple sclerosis. It turned out to just be one lesion. Still, they had no explanation for it. The best theory that I developed for that was that I had caught COVID in March 2020 and developed long COVID. And the reason I say that is because there was a number of COVID patients who had similar single lesions on the same part of their brain and similar symptoms. I'm much better now. But at the time, my brain just felt like the two hemispheres were not communicating. I felt like, So some people were like, shrooms, dude, shrooms. And I did them. And I had like this huge revelation. I was already getting better in every other way, like, from doing other stuff too. But that was like, it was a nice push forward, that shroom experience. I only did it once. Not the only time I ever shroomed, but that was the only time I shroomed in that situation. But I can vouch. I definitely think that shrooms rewire your brain. I think part of it is unconscious, and there's actual physical something going on with that, the way your neurons fire. Yeah. But I also think there's something conscious going on where you're going through some kind of like mental. You're like solving a puzzle in your mind, and you once you solve it, it's like you find this neural pathway that's like a solution. It was previously a problem. There was some, like you kept like firing in a loop that wasn't making sense, and then you make sense of it, and you feel like liberated. That's exactly what it felt like for me.
So, yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah. And I'm not a doctor.
Not a doctor either. What I wanted to learn from you is whether you went to a doctor, somebody who can say that they are a doctor, and they
they said they were a doctor. I don't know. I still don't know to this day. I didn't check their credentials.
I guess that's enough for those days. And actually, they found changes in your brain.
Like, I haven't gone back. I haven't gone back yet because I didn't like the way they handled it. And every doctor's different. I was just dealing with whoever would see me quickest during the pandemic, and I kind of got the bottom of the barrel. Yeah. But they saw me. That was the cool part. But I haven't gone back. I plan to soon. I want to get another brain scan. So I can't tell you what happened, but I can tell you how I feel, and I feel 99% better. I'm not going to say 100%. I feel better than I did before in many other ways, but in that specific like brain thing, I feel not. There's like still a little bit of it that's like unresolved, but I'm totally cool with that.
Why are you saying that you feel like your two hemispheres are not really communicating? Like, did you feel like you are getting bipolar or multiple personalities?
So before all this happened, I was very in tune with my body. I would do a lot of like daily body scans, which, you know, like a lot of people talk about. It's like
part of meditation.
Part of meditation where you feel different parts of your body. And I was always very like, okay, feel your left ankle, feel your right ankle, And around August of 2020, something happened where I just could not like do that on my left side anywhere. I was completely internally numb on my left side. And I remember going to a neurologist and I was like, I can't feel like the inside of my left brain. He's like, how do you feel your brain? I was like, what do you mean? How do you feel your brain? You can feel inside your body. Like you have nerves everywhere in your body. You can feel inside of your body. And I could not. So yes, it was very clear that I had no, and the place where they found the lesion was on the white matter of my brain, which is the white matter is involves communication between the two hemispheres, and that's what it felt like.
The deeper area, right?
Yes.
The gray matter is a very thin layer around. It's the higher conscious, right? So it's where you have like decision making processes. Well, maybe math, maybe business, maybe comedy, right? Happening in your gray matter.
Yeah.
Right? So white matter is this larger chunk below it.
Yes.
Which has emotions, contains emotions, as well as lots of our reflexes. So it's more like firmware of the biology.
Yes, and so I could feel during the healing process. So it started where I couldn't feel my left side at all, and then it was like I could feel my right side, I could feel my left side, but not at the same time. And so it felt like I was shifting back and forth between the two sides of my body.
Wow.
And so that's why I say it felt like I was having trouble with the two sides of the brain communicating.
Yeah. Sounds like it wasn't like a stroke or anything in this case.
Well, at first it was unclear. It was unclear if I had a stroke or something stroke-like, and it's still not entirely clear, but unlikely to be a traditional stroke. I would have had different.
But your mental capacity didn't really suffer from this. You still
I somehow got even smarter actually. But in no way did I get did my memory go away or did I start slipping mentally? But physically, I was debilitated for quite some time, which ultimately does affect your whole mindset. And I was depressed, and I was. A lot of that factored into my productivity. So I will say in that sense, there was a decline, but it didn't feel like it interfered with my mental faculties.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of that was like the feedback loop.
Yes.
Of you feeling that something is not there,
right,
and you are not being 100% yourself, and that's why you started to maybe lose the usual battles that you typically would win, right? And that's like it comes back to you and introduces doubts, right? Can you even do that now?
A lot of the ways that I reacted to it mentally and just what I did were, in retrospect, like made it worse. Like I learned a lot from that experience about like getting the more negative thinking. It just was a vicious cycle, and there was a point where I felt like I was completely debilitated when it wasn't that bad.
Was this during the time that you were on your comedy set, like
the 1,000 days?
Yeah, the 1,000 days. Okay.
No. I went through a different thing during then, actually.
Okay, because I was just wondering, was it stress related as well? Okay.
Yeah, because the pandemic thing was weird because it was like, how could this be stress related? Because I'm at home every day.
Right.
However, there was another thing that was going on that we actually don't have time to talk about today. My parents went through a divorce.
Okay.
And my dad was having an affair, and I found out about it first. So that was a very emotionally stressful thing. So
at the beginning of the pandemic?
That was the beginning of the pandemic. Wow. So all of that, I would say it was that coupled with the fact that I injured myself before the pandemic. I had a shoulder injury, and I couldn't see it. I didn't feel like I needed to see a doctor, but also my doctor ghosted. So I couldn't even go get an X-ray or anything like that. So I just
ghosted?
My doctor ghosted.
Oh, during the pandemic.
During the pandemic.
Okay.
Just disappeared. Stopped returning calls. Yeah.
Wow.
I was trying to contact him as early as April, and I didn't hear back. until August from his assistant saying
my
that
goodness.
that he like wasn't there anymore.
Wow.
And then I got X-rays and they didn't find anything. But like it was
Wa-
basically
was he even a doctor?
we'll never know. and that's why, like, you know, I'm not anti-doctor. Like, if you feel something, you should go to a doctor. This is just a very difficult time to see a doctor.
Right.
And when I needed a doctor, I couldn't get one. And so it just became kind of a vicious cycle, and the pain kept getting worse, and it became like nerve related. So I was also having issues sleeping. I had that emotional stress. And then there was the fires. If you remember the Bay Area in 2020,
Oh, yeah.
the fires,
Yeah.
we were covered in a cloud of smoke.
Yeah.
For like a month, and some people are very sensitive to that stuff, and
Yes.
I found out that I am because I just felt very inflamed the whole time. I felt like I was having a lot of pains in my body. I couldn't go outside and get sunlight and get fresh air. So all of that combined, I just that was what created that. But to answer your question about the 1,000 days thing, I had that was extremely stressful. And speaking of what you said about like getting off of medication too fast. I had acne back then, and I got an antibiotic for the acne, and I took it for a while, and then they ran out of that one, so they prescribed me another one, and it was like too strong. I had bad reactions to it, so I stopped taking it like right away because I didn't want to take it. It just felt horrible. But you're supposed to like continue the term, as they say. So it's like you're in this tough position. It's like, do I follow what the doctor says and complete the term, or do I just stop and deal with the consequences of that? And I chose to stop. And I think it was the right decision, but that, the reactions I was having to that, plus the stress of the 1,000 days, I went through this whole other thing where I was having like anxiety attacks, and my skin turned like red, and my hair was falling out. I had really bad reactions to the antibiotic. Yeah. Well, I later learned how bad that was my lack of knowledge about how bad over antibiotic use is. You know, if you really need it for something, take it for a short term, but something cosmetic like acne, the doctors were allowing me to take it for 2 years. Yeah.
That's a long time.
That's a long time. And yeah. So, you know, I've had to learn a lot. I've had to learn a lot the hard way over the years. And sometimes doctors won't tell you what's best. You got to learn on your own. And that's one way I learned that.
They also, I think it goes back to your statement that healthcare is trying to use the very same tool for everybody.
Yeah.
While humans are different.
Yes.
Pretty much, we have our own biology.
I remember going to the dermatologist and was like, I'm having this reaction to minocycline. She's like, I take minocycline, I'm fine. Well, like, I'm not fucking you.
We are seeing developing strains
of resistant
bacteria to bacteria. And what happens with this antibiotic? It goes on the shelves, like over the counter, right? Because it's so mild now, and it doesn't really do much. So it's safe to prescribe. It's safe to just distribute it to population without any prescription. Right. But what happens is it only makes things worse. Right. So now you get all the soap with like antibiotic in it. Like, you know, say, well, if you have acne, it's a soap which has some antibiotic.
Antibacterial.
Right? Yes. But bacteria that gets only half of the dose develops resistance. So now we get a lot of bacteria which require new antibiotics, and it can be really bad for specific bacteria which were supposed to be resistant to majority of them, but only one antibiotic works on them. Right. But it happened that it also developed resistance to this one. Right. Then you're screwed.
We'll never kill all the bacteria,
and we shouldn't.
We shouldn't. There's only a if you could actually measure it, like the fraction of bacteria out there that actually is harmful for us, but I'm sure it's less than there is good bacteria. And I mean, obviously antibiotics, you got to use them in serious situations, but yeah, they're overprescribed, and long-term use is not good.
Yeah, I do think that COVID altered lots of people's brains.
Yeah.
I did have COVID myself, and I was never back to 100% after this. So when you talk about like lesions on your brain, clearly that might be the side effect of the virus.
Yeah, could be.
I don't know if I have them or not. I just felt like I was in fog for like at least half a year after. And like for 4 days when I got it, I was just not present. It was maybe the highest fever and the worst flu kind of like feeling I've ever had in my life. And I was never back to normal since then, you see. But also it's difficult to say whether it's just COVID or it's a combination of other things, because, well, there's pharma pretty much all of us are taking some medications, I guess. I don't really meet people who are not taking some medication or supplementation again. You see, so all those combinations of things on top of the disease, which is not really well known, can cause all the unexpected, like kind of events in human bodies.
Yeah, and we're still finding out stuff. It's like still early. But I'm optimistic. I think that whatever it throws at us, most of us are going to be able to recover from it.
Yeah, and the long COVID thing. And that's why like brain rewiring, neuroplasticity is one of the fundamental abilities of human brain. And that's what made human species so advanced, is because they retain the ability for neuroplasticity all the way into the old age. It kind of slows down, but while your brain is capable of neuroplasticity, you still are able to recover from strokes, for example, partially, or build new knowledge, new connections, and new skills. And it's important to maintain this ability to pick up new skills and new knowledge as you age. Specifically, the first thing that goes out in as you age is your ability to use your body and use your brain to the full extent. You see, so this essentially the terminal state of this is dementia, but you can postpone dementia by encouraging neuroplasticity. So I do think that COVID kind of affected this ability in some way.
Yeah.
So basically it made all of us older.
Yeah, but I also think it gives us an opportunity to be more aware of our brain health.
Yeah.
It did for me at least.
Yeah. Exactly. And one more thing I wanted to touch base on, and let's switch to your questions. You have. So there's another book which I find extremely insightful. It's called The Winner Effect. And that's about the neurochemistry of humans in this case, but also it talks a lot about animals. And that neurochemistry of humans who win is drastically different from neurochemistry of people who keep losing. You see, so when you said that, well, you know that you have a lesion on your brain, and it kind of gave you doubts about your own mental ability. It kicks off this feedback loop where you start losing, and it's more of a like momentum kind of thing. So if you win once, it's easier for you to continue winning, and if you lose once, it kind of shakes the whole fundamental understanding and fundamental confidence in you that you are such a successful person, and you kind of have more tendency to lose. You see, so even though the effect of this lesion might not be as detrimental on your health, but your knowledge about it and your belief that there is something wrong with you is what's so detrimental.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's all mental.
Yeah.
I did have a question. I wanted to go back to the 100 Humans.
Yeah.
So I saw the show way back during the pandemic and the start of it. So I'm trying to. You were a hostess, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So have you thought about going back to acting since that, or?
Oh yeah. I love acting. In fact, if I want to continue acting. I don't have an agent, and I don't really do the Hollywood thing right now. I'm just kind of doing my own tour and making my own content. So really what I should be doing is writing my own sketches and acting in them. So that's probably what I should be doing. But I do love acting, and I love hosting.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But I have a hosting agent who sends me out for hosting stuff. I just haven't booked anything recently. Yeah.
There's a hosting agent?
Yeah, you have a host sends you out for hosting gigs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, hosting is, I love hosting. It's one of my favorite things. Yeah.
If you had the chance to be in any show, either modern or like made in past 100 years or so, which show would it be? Which role would you take for yourself?
I'm really down to host anything. I like the math and science space a lot, but it would be fun to host anything. I would host a dating show. I don't care.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a friend. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was saying that I have a friend of mine who is a dating coach, and we can get her. And also you folks have some dating product, right?
Yeah.
With
we
your
have
fellowship.
a dating workshop. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm actually coaching 2 couples, and they just got engaged.
Oh, nice. Okay, maybe
If you guys need help.
Yeah,
I'm
there you go.
actually-
Maybe we should do something together.
With the whole like cancel culture stuff, I'm sure you've probably talked about it a lot, but do you feel like comedy is under attack?
I think comedy, it gets a lot of scrutiny, but I'm not worried. I think comedy is actually more alive than ever because of the internet and because we're now reaching the people directly on social media. There's more of a demand for comedy than ever, like literally ever. And it's a pure sheer numbers thing. And yes, people, we're an easy target because in stand-up, you can say things that you shouldn't say in a job place, that you shouldn't say as a politician, that you shouldn't say, and if you're a public figure who's trying to keep a reputation, we break all of those rules on stage. And so we're easy to target in that regard. And we have kind of this informal feud with journalism, right? Journalists, like it's easy to criticize comedians and tell us that we're racist or homophobic or, said something that was off color. It's pretty easy to do that. I mean, I'm surprised there's not more of it, to be honest. If you went to some of these comedy clubs and like witnessed, but it doesn't happen until you're famous and you have something and that you're worth like knowing about and losing. And so there's this bittersweet aspect to it. While I like the nature of some journalism, like I think it's appropriate. I think it's good to call out people who did something wrong, but at the same time, it's sensationalized and they go after people. They go after people in order to just have a sensational story, and you see that quite often. And that's just the plight of journalism. You have to, you got to sell.
Yeah.
So I don't think comedy's under attack in that regard. It can be perceived that way, but I don't see it that way. I just see it like, there's always going to be critics of comedy. There will always be critics of comedy. And just as a comedian, you have to understand what space you're in, and you have to decide if you are going to be respectful of people's feelings and to what degree. Every comedian has to decide that at some point.
Yeah, as soon as you get time on stage, you have a voice and you have some audience.
Right.
It might be big or small.
Right.
But you have to choose what kind of voice what kind of ideas are you bringing. Yeah. And I think a lot of the stuff which actually might be more opinionated is just not being shown. Like it's in a smaller clubs where you can let yourself say whatever, right? And even if you are a bigger star, you will not say things on a bigger stage that you would say in a smaller club. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, say, Bill Burr. He talks a lot about like this, like divorce thing, relationship kind of stuff and so on. And he's brave about that because sometimes he talks about things which could get him canceled. He still does that. And some people care a bit more about their image and their ability to land gigs because this is where their bread and butter coming from.
Yeah, but it's all craft too. Like Bill Burr, as much as Bill Burr is very edgy, but he's so good at what he does that he has never caught like a mainstream anti-Bill Burr story because he's too good at what he does.
Yes. He's funny.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, he's really funny and he knows how to toe the line. Like there's a lot of comedians who did not do it as like the way he did it. And that's why they got the stories.
Who would be a comedian you would warm up for? Who would be the comedian you would do a collab with, and who you think would be a warm up for you?
Anyone except Bill Cosby. Sorry, Bill's out. Bill's out. I'm sorry.
I know.
Yeah, to close. Let's close real quick. So I think you are someone who can exemplify a successful career of a comedian. Yes, you started somewhere, you had some rough years and also some wake-up calls, and now you are a Netflix show, you have substantial following, and you are landing good gigs. For folks who are just starting, going to say open mics in a smaller clubs nearby, what would be your advice?
I guess the main advice that I give to starting comics is number one, first, like decide if you like it. If you don't like it, like maybe think about what you really like about it or what you want to do. Do you just want to be a writer? Do you like the performance aspect? Do you just want to be a public speaker? I think a lot of people who do stand up, they don't know if they really like it. They like something about it, but they don't like the whole process. Second piece of advice would be to get on stage as many nights of the week as you can in the beginning. I've learned that it's good to take nights off here and there. So I would never say 7 every week, but you can do 7 nights a week, you know, and do that for some weeks, but eventually take a night off.
You can
But
do
at least
1,001 nights.
you do 1,001 nights, but you at least do 3 to 5 nights. If you're doing if you're doing less than 3 nights a week of stand up, like then you're not actually that serious about it. And then I would also just think kind of along the lines of the first thing is like really think about what you want to do with this, like what's your destination, and help that drive you to the choices you make, whether you focus on the writing aspect, the performance aspect, the networking aspect, building a following aspect, or if you want to do all of it, then do all of it.
Very cool. Wonderful.
Advice.
Yeah. What's next? And where are you performing next? How can people find you? And
where is your following located? The listeners of the podcast, where are they?
YouTube,
Okay.
Instagram, TikTok. Well, pretty much.
You don't know your demographics or your geographical demographics?
53% female, interestingly.
Okay,
Yeah.
so meet you at the salon, girl.
Primarily millennials and older Gen Zs.
Okay, so
Good 60% of them.
So yeah, I mean, look up my tour dates, sammyko.com. And yeah, I have an ongoing tour, San Francisco coming up, the East Coast, doing the Midwest, Chicago.
Yeah.
So doing all of it. Every city that's a city, I'll be doing it.
Would you be doing comedy 5 years from now?
Will I be doing comedy
Yes.
for 5 years from now?
Would you? Not will, but
Would I? Would I be open to it? Yeah, I'm open to it.
Do you want to keep doing what you're doing, or do you
Yeah. I want
retire at
to
some
do
point?
comedy for a while. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, folks, this was Sammy Obeid. See him. His Instagram below. See him on Netflix 100 Humans show, which, as we learned, didn't pick up, but we have ideas for more shows, so maybe there will be more interesting production, and see him performing at your club next door. Awesome.
Thanks, Sammy.
Yeah.
Woo.
Thank you.
Thank you.